Just to recall, this is the system that we were looking at, and we were trying to decide how much each city should treat its waste so that the environmental regulations are met and the cost incurred by the cities is the least. So we introduced these symbols, and then we talked about the objective function. We kind of derived these equations. That means we modeled the system in terms of these equations, C1, C2, C3, and C4 being the concentrations at the four junction points for the pollutant. And then we said, according to environmental regulations, all these C's, C1, C2, C3, and C4 should be less than or equal to 20 milligrams per liter. So we have an objective function, we have certain constraints. These variables should be less than or equal to 20. So we have inequality constraints in this problem, right? These should be less than or equal to 20. And by doing an analysis of the equations and the symbols that exist in the equations and saying we know these 11 variables, we have values for those 11 variables, we said we are left with 4 degrees of freedom, and we could use those 4 degrees of freedom to meet the environmental regulations and achieve it at minimal cost. And the 4 decision variables we chose were x1, x2, x3, and x4. Now let's go a few steps further towards the MATLAB implementation of this problem and the solution of it. We know that we are interested in minimizing the cost by choosing x1, x2, x3, and x4 appropriately. x1, x2, x3, and x4 are fractions, and by definition we know x1 should lie between 0 and 1. Same for x2, same for x3, and same for x4. All of these should lie between 0 and 1. Those are other constraints that we have to implement as part of our solution strategy. And C1, C2, C3, C4, as calculated by these equations that you see here, the C's should also be less than or equal to 20. So minimize the cost Z by suitably choosing x1, x2, x3, and x4 values such that they are all between 0 and 1, and the constraints in terms of concentration is met. And of course, the expressions for C1, C2, C3, and C4 implement the model, right? They encapsulate the model. That means they encapsulate the material balance for the system. So what is given to us are these symbols as we indicated earlier. And the specific values for the production on a daily basis of the pollutants are given here for the 4 cities. So the production is of the order of 10 to the power of 9 milligrams per day. The cost is given here for the 4 cities, right? The cost of treating the pollutant. It is the same for city 1 and 2, and it is kind of different for cities 3 and 4. Maybe the labor cost is high, or some kind of tariffs are high in cities 3 and 4. So the cost of treatment in those cities is higher. And the cost is per milligram, it is 2 into 10 to the power of minus $6 for cities 1 and 2, and it is going to be 4 into 10 to the power of minus $6 per milligram for cities 3 and 4. And the flow rates in the different segments are given here in liters per day. And the effect of the environment in treating the waste naturally through natural processes, those values are R12, R23, and R34, right? R13 is 0.5, R23 is 0.35, R34 is 0.6. So that looks like it is significant, right? At least 35% of the pollutant is removed by the environmental or the natural processes, and it can be as high as 0.6 in segment 3-4. So these values are all given. Now, a quick remark is, if you have no treatment, that means if you have x1, x2, x3, and x4 all to be 0, that means you don't do any treatment, then the cost is 0, because the cost function is this, right? So if you put x1, x2, x3, x4 is equal to 0, you're going to get cost to be 0. That's the lowest cost solution to the problem. But if you look at C1, right, C2, C3, and C4, that you can calculate from here using x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 0, x3 is equal to 0, and x4 is equal to 0, what you're going to get is C1 is going to be 100, C2 is going to be 40, C3 is going to be 47.3, and C4 is going to be 22.5. all of these are well above the environmental limits, which has to be less than or equal to 20. So doing no treatment at all is not a solution. It will not meet the environmental constraints. So you have to do some treatment by incurring some cost so that you want to bring all these numbers down to less than or equal to 20. Now, when you solve the problem ultimately, you're going to get x1 to be about 92.4%. You're going to get x2 to be 0.5 or 50%, and x3 to be 0.547, and x4 to be almost 0, right? In the order of 10 to the power of minus 10. So you can say x4 is almost 0. That means you do not require treatment plan 4 because the other cities are doing a fabulous job that even if city 4 puts out its waste into the water stream, it is not going to violate the environmental constraints. Now, you might ask, why should city 1 do cleaning up of 92.37% of its pollutant, whereas the other cities are doing about 50%, and city 4 need not do anything? This is because we are taking into account the overall cost of the system. We are not taking into account what is the cost of city 1, city 2, city 3, and city 4. So if each city were to just do the minimum it needs to do, for example, if city 1 just cares about what happens at junction 1, then city 1 can get away doing the minimum possible water treatment. But that may shift the cost to the other treatment plants, and the overall cost might come out to be higher. So with this solution, the overall system, right, the four cities together incur a cost of $12,600 per day. Any other solution would give a cost that is either 12,600 or more. It will not be lesser than 12,600. Any other combination of x1, x2, x3, and x4 subject to these constraints will not give a cost of anything less than 12,600 while keeping the environmental regulations respected. When this solution is implemented, the cost is $12,600 per day, and you get C1, C2, C3, and C4 to be these values. So, and this is what we got to implement in MATLAB and see if we get these results. So this is a problem involving a few constraints, maybe 4 constraints on the concentration, and you have the lower bound and the upper bound for x1, x2, x3, and x4 to be 0 and 1 respectively. So those are the constraints. We have these lower bound, upper bound constraints on x1, x2, x3, x4. You have upper bound constraints on C1, C2, C3, and C4. So these are the constraints that are there. But in reality, in the world, when you solve problems in a chemical refinery or a paper mill or a polymer plant, you're going to have several 100,000 equations sometimes in 100,000 unknowns with, let's say, 30 or 40 decision variables. So the real world problems are going to be high dimensional and with a great number of decision variables, so that the search for the optimal point can be quite challenging. And systems can be non-linear as well. Constraints can be non-linear. They need not be linear constraints. So all of these will pose problems in the solution using optimization techniques. And many researchers are working on finding out good optimization techniques to solve problems. Some of the methods are fairly generic. That means it can be applied to many kinds of problems. Some solutions are very tailor-made for a particular problem. So all of these kinds of things exist. So the objective function can be non-linear. Here the objective function is linear. But in general, the objective function can be non-linear. The constraints may be complex. It may not be as simple as what you see here. And we may have dynamic models, not just steady state models. We may have dynamic models that are described by ordinary or partial differential equations. So this is reality, but we will not get that far. We will be happy solving problems of the type that I am trying to illustrate now. But then there are methods to solve such realistic problems, and they are routinely used in the industry on a few hourly basis or a daily basis, etc. In a chemical industry, for example, there is something called real-time optimization. It's called RTO. So these optimizers optimize the plant operating conditions once every 6 hours or once 12 hours or once a day. So these routines are run, the optimization problem is set up, and then it decides what should be the temperatures in various reactors, what could be certain flow rates, what should be the pressures at certain points, etc. So that the profit to the company is maximum, the safety is maximum, etc. So let's get closer to implementation in MATLAB. So we know C1 is equal to 1 minus x1 times P1 by Q13. This is nothing but W1 by Q13. That is C1. So in terms of x1, right, it is good to put it in terms of x1, x2, x3, and x4. So C1 is going to be equal to 1 minus x1 times P1 by Q13. P1 is given to be 10 to the power of 9. Q13 is given to be 10 to the power of 7 in appropriate units. Therefore, I can write C1 is going to be equal to 100 times 1 minus x1. So C1 is equal to 100 times 1 minus x1 comes from the mass balance written for the pollutant. And the constraint is, environmental constraint is C1 should be less than or equal to 20. Therefore, C1, which is equal to 100 into 1 minus x1 in terms of the decision variables, right? So we can write, instead of C1, we can write 100 times 1 minus x1. So 100 times 1 minus x1 should be less than or equal to 20. That means 1 minus x1 should be less than or equal to 0.2, dividing both sides by 100. And therefore, I can write minus x1 should be less than or equal to minus 0.8. Basically, we are saying x1 should be greater than or equal to 0.8. That means if you take this and multiply by minus on both sides, minus x1 becomes x1, minus 0.8 becomes 0.8, and the inequality should reverse. If you multiply by a negative value, the sign of the inequality will reverse. So you get x1 should be greater than or equal to 0.8. But it is MATLAB's requirement that the constraint should be mentioned as less than or equal to. Therefore, we leave it like this. Minus x1 should be less than or equal to minus 0.8. So that is the first constraint we have. That comes out of the mass balance, that comes out of the environmental constraint. So bringing the two together, we are able to write this constraint, which really means x1 should be greater than or equal to 0.8. Only then the environmental regulations will be materialized, as well as the material balance in the system will be intact. Now, if you come to the second junction, C2 we know is equal to W2 by Q23, which is also going to be equal to 1 minus x2 times P2 divided by Q23. And if you substitute the values for P2 that's given and the value for Q23 that's given, if you substitute the numbers, we are going to get C2 is equal to 40 times 1 minus x2. This is what we get from the material balance. And C2 should be less than or equal to 20 because of environmental regulations. Therefore, 40 times 1 minus x2, which is C2, should be less than or equal to 20, which means 1 minus x2 should be less than or equal to 0.5, dividing both sides by 40. So minus x2 should be less than or equal to minus 0.5. That means you're saying x2 should be greater than or equal to 0.5. But MATLAB will want the constraints, the inequality constraints should be with a less than or equal to sign. Therefore, we persist with equation 2. So minus x2 should be less than or equal to minus 0.5 in order to meet the environmental regulations as well as to respect the mass balance at junction 2. When you come to C3, things get complicated, right? That's when the natural degradation process comes in, you have more streams, etc. So C3, we know it is equal to R13 Q13 times C1 plus R23 Q23 times C2 plus 1 minus X3 times P3. So this part is W3. This part is W2. This part is W1. And we also know that W1, so we can write C3 as, we did it earlier also, C3 as R13 W1. W1 is 1 minus X1 times P1 plus R23 W2, which is going to be equal to 1 minus x2 multiplied by p2 plus 1 minus x3 times p3. So the three terms in the numerator, this whole thing divided by q34, that is equal to C3. Therefore, if you substitute the values for R13 P1, R23 P2 and P3 and Q34, if you substitute all the values there, you should get this to be C3. So C3 will be equal to this. I did it in a different way here. But if you do it like what I've just outlined here, you can get an expression for C3 in terms of the x variables and constants. So C3 will be equal to this. Kindly verify. So this is what the mass balance for pollutant in junction 3 tells us, that this is going to be the expression for C3. And we also know that C3 should be less than or equal to 20. That's the constraint. That's the inequality constraint. So this is the expression for C3, and the right hand side should be less than or equal to 20. Only then C3 will be less than or equal to 20. So you take that expression and you kind of do some algebra with it, and then you can come up with this expression. Minus 50 by 11 x1 minus 70 by 11 x2 minus 400 by 11 x3 is less than or equal to minus 300 by 11. So this is the third inequality constraint that captures the environmental regulations as well as captures the mass balance at junction 3. Now coming to C4, it is very similar to C3, right? So the expression for C4 we acknowledged earlier was R34 Q34 C3 plus 1 minus x4 times p4 divided by q45. So if you substitute the values for p4, q45 and r34 and q34, you will get this expression. Now we know from our previous calculation that C3 equals this. This is C3. So I take this expression for C3, which is in terms of x1, x2 and x3, and substitute that here. So 6.6 by 25 times C3. So C3 is this in terms of the decision variables. So I plug it in there and then I do the algebra and then I get an expression for C4, which is this in terms of x1, x2 and x3 and x4. And we know the C4 should be less than or equal to 20. So what you see here should be less than or equal to 20. And when you do the algebra, you will get equation 4 to be the fourth constraint. So we have the objective function z, which is something times x1. This is some number which you can calculate given the data, plus something times x2, plus something times x3, plus something times x4, right? So you can use the values of d1 and p1 to get this, d2 and p2 to get this, d3 and p3 to get this, d4 and p4 to get this. So you have an expression for z in terms of x1, x2, x3, x4, and you're trying to minimize that. You also have to make sure that x1, x2, x3, x4 are all between 0 and 1. And we've also had these four equations that are set up, right? So equation 1 is an additional constraint that has to be obeyed. It's not enough for x1 to be between 0 and 1. x1 also has to be greater than 0.8 according to the environmental regulations and the mass balance. Therefore, equation 1 is to be added to the list of constraints. Equation 2, equation 3, and equation 4. All of these have to be included. So 4 equations, right? So those are inequalities. Those have to be included. So this is what forms the optimization problem. The objective function, the constraints, the lower bound and the upper bound on x1, x2, x3, x4, and the additional inequalities that come from mass balances and from environmental regulations. This is the objective function. So when you put in the numbers, right, like I mentioned in the previous slide, the expression for z is this. So this is what needs to be minimized. And the four inequality constraints, right, the four inequality constraints are minus x1 less than or equal to minus 0.8, minus x2 less than or equal to minus 0.5. This is equation 1, this is equation 2. If you're looking for equation 3, it is going to be minus 50 by 11 x1 minus 70 by 11 x2 minus 400 by 11 x3. That should be less than or equal to minus 300 by 11, minus 300 by 11. So I just took it out from here. And finally C4, right, the equation, the fourth equation, right, based on C4 is minus 30 by 25 x1 minus 42 by 25 x2, etc., should be less than or equal to minus 62.5. So it's going to be minus 30 by 25 x1 minus 42 by 25 x2 minus 240 by 25 x3 minus 10 x4. That should be less than or equal to minus 62 by 25. So these are the four equations I've just copied from the previous slides. So I can now put it in the form of a matrix. All of these are linear equations, linear inequalities, so to say. We will not call them linear equations because it is not equal to. All these have less than or equal to, right? So these are called linear inequalities. So I can put it in the form of this matrix, right? So if you look at the first equation, it has got the coefficient of x1 to be minus 1. So this first column is the x1 column, the second column is the x2 column, the third column is the x3 column, the fourth column is x4 column. So minus 1 times x1. So minus 1. The first inequality does not have any x2, x3 or x4. And the right hand side is minus 0.8. So less than or equal to minus 0.8. So if you take the first row, it is going to be minus 1 times x1 plus 0 times x2 plus 0 times x3 plus 0 times x4 is less than or equal to minus 0.8. If you take the second equation, the coefficient of x1 is 0. The coefficient of x2 is minus 1. The coefficient of x3 and x4 are both 0. And the right hand side is minus 0.5. So if you take the second row and multiply it with this x vector, this is the unknown vector. 0 times x1 minus 1 times x2 plus 0 times x3 plus 0 times x4 less than or equal to minus 0.5, which is the second equation. Likewise, you can write the third and the fourth equations. Minus 50 by 11, minus 70 by 11, minus 400 by 11 for x3 coefficient, and there is no x4 in the third equation, so it's 0. The right hand side is minus 300 by 11. And the last equation or the last inequality is minus 30 by 25 x1 minus 42 by 25 x2 minus 240 by 25 x3 minus 10 x4 less than or equal to minus 62 by 25. So we have put all the linear inequalities into this form, compact form, because they are all linear inequalities. So whenever things are linear, you can put them as matrices. So we can have A times X less than or equal to B, where A is this matrix and B is this vector. So these are what are called inequality constraints. To be very specific, we can say linear inequality constraints. And MATLAB would want the linear inequality constraints to be less than or equal to sign. And we have that here, no problem. So this is a compact way of representing all our four linear inequality constraints. And the lower bound for x1, x2, x3, x4 are 0, 0, 0, and 0. The upper bound value for x1, x2, x3, x4 are 1, 1, 1, and 1. That means x1 can be between 0 and 1. So that's why it's the lower bound and the upper bound. Likewise, x2 could be between 0 and 1. So same for x3 and same for x4. So we have the cost equation, which will be minimized, subject to these matrix inequalities and subject to this lower bound and upper bound for the decision variables. There are no equality constraints. There are no linear equality constraints. So we don't have a constraint like A, X is equal to B. We don't have anything like that. So if let's say in one of the cities, right, they said that C3, let's say for example, C3 should be exactly 20. They don't say should be less than or equal to 20. Let's say, by chance, they said it should be exactly equal to 20. Then C3 should be a linear equality constraint because it should be exactly 20. The other three will be inequality constraints. So a problem can have linear equality constraints as well as linear inequality constraints. In our case, we have only linear inequality constraints. There are no equality constraints in this problem. There are no nonlinear constraints as well. So that is a nice thing. Now, how do we exactly translate this to MATLAB and get it solved? That will be the subject of our last video on optimization. Thank you for your time.